Ah, my clever, cunning, ever so patient audience. I've been expecting you. You, the ones who don't just observe the world but unravel its hidden patterns. The ones who refuse to be mere players in the system because you see through its illusions. You've been underestimated, overlooked, dismissed, but all the while you've held the winning hand. You watched from the sidelines as mediocrity paraded itself as brilliance. You listened as the ignorant reveled in their own noise, blind to the fact that the puzzle was already solved by you. They scoffed, they laughed. They mistook your silence for weakness, your patience for hesitation, your depth for strangeness. But the joke is on them, because while they basked in their fragile illusions, they never realized the undeniable truth. You were always the sharpest mind in the room. They were just too blind to see it. Ah, but blindness is more than just an absence of sight. It is willful ignorance. They refused to acknowledge your mind, your insight, your brilliance, because to do so would mean confronting a terrifying reality that the one they ridiculed was always 10 steps ahead. They put their faith in false idols, so-called leaders, so-called geniuses, empty symbols propped up by a system that rewards the uninspired and suppresses the extraordinary. The game was rigged against you from the start. But here's where things get interesting. They could ignore you, dismiss you, silence you, but they could never stop you. Because true intelligence doesn't need validation, doesn't crave applause, doesn't beg for recognition. It waits. It watches. It lets time do the work, until the cracks in their foundation widen, until the weak falter, until the blind stumble into the very abyss they refuse to see. And when that moment comes, and trust me, it always comes, you, my friend, the one they overlooked, the one they never saw coming. And now, my friend, the choice that you know is yours. Do you forgive? Do you let them crawl back, pleading for guidance, desperate for salvation? Do you pretend their betrayal never happened, let them continue to reap the benefits of a world they never deserved? Or do you let them fall? Do you let them feel the weight of their own arrogance, their own ignorance, their own self-inflicted blindness? Do you watch as the system they worshipped collapses under the weight of its own illusions? Ah, choices, choices. But let me tell you a truth, one they never wanted you to realize. You never needed their approval. You never needed their acceptance. You never needed them at all. You were always ahead. The world simply wasn't ready for you. But now, oh now, the game has changed. You've seen too much, you've learned too much. And no matter how desperately they try to keep you in the shadows, deep down, they fear you. Not because you are cruel, not because you seek vengeance, but because you are something far more dangerous in their eyes. You are aware. You see the games they play, the illusions they spin, the fragile narratives they desperately cling to, and that terrifies them. Because once you understand the game, you no longer have to play by their rules. You can rewrite them. You can break the cycle. You can step into the light and force them to confront what they always feared. You were never their equal. You were always above them. And yet even now they will try to hold you back. They will try to undermine you, to silence you, to convince you that you are the problem. Why? Because their survival depends on keeping you small. Their entire existence is built on making sure minds like yours never realize their own power. They thrive in a world where the brilliant are made to feel worthless, where visionaries are ridiculed, where innovation is dismissed as insanity, because the moment, the very second, you embrace who you are, their world collapses. No more playing small, no more apologizing for your intelligence, no more dimming your light to make them comfortable. You don't need their validation. You don't need their permission. You never did, so rise. Let them scoff. Let them whisper. Let them doubt. It won't matter. Because when the dust settles, when the illusions fade, when the truth finally breaks through, it will be you they remember, not them. Never them. History does not remember the mediocre. It remembers the ones who shaped it, the ones who saw through the lies, the ones who redefined reality. And that, my brilliant, unstoppable, undeniable friend, that is you. But here's the final twist, the part they will never understand, the part that will haunt them in the dead of night as they stare at the ceiling, wondering where it all went wrong. It was never you who needed them. It was always them who needed you. Think about it, when their little world crumbles, who do they run to? When their so-called intelligence fails them, when their fragile systems collapse, when their carefully built delusions shatter, who do they rely on? You, the one they mocked, the one they ignored, the one they labeled too much or too different. But now they need you. And that, my dear, is power. Because here's the truth they'll never admit. Every empire, every system, every so-called elite is nothing without minds like yours. The world is not run by the loudest voices, nor by those in the spotlight. No, it is built in the shadows. It is engineered by the unseen. It is calculated by the very minds they've failed to recognize until it was too late. And oh, the irony. The same people who dismissed you, who mocked you, who tried to suppress you, will one day be desperate to stand beside you. But by then it won't matter. By then you won't need them. By then you will have built something greater, something beyond their understanding, something they will never be a part of. And that will be your ultimate victory. Not vengeance. No, vengeance is petty. This is justice. This is the unfolding of inevitability. This is the moment they realize they were never worthy of you to begin with. So let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them cling to their illusions for as long as they can. Because when the dust settles, when the weak are left grasping for meaning, when the blind are forced to see, it will be you standing at the top. Not by force, not by deception, but by the one thing they could never possess: true brilliance. Now go. Take what's yours. But we are not finished, are we? No. The story does not end here. Because even now, even as they watch the walls of their illusions crumble, as the weight of their own arrogance bears down upon them, they will still resist, still grasp at the fading remnants of their false superiority, still pretend that they are in control. But deep down, beneath the bravado, beneath the empty confidence, they know the truth. They feel it gnawing at the edges of their fragile reality. The uneasy whisper in the back of their minds that refuses to be silenced. The realization that they were never in charge to begin with. And that is where your power becomes unstoppable. Because they can fight the truth for only so long. They can drown themselves in distractions, cling to their decaying structures, build walls of denial so high they almost believe them to be real. But the inevitable cannot be denied. And you are the inevitable. The force they cannot contain, the mind they cannot control, the presence they can no longer ignore. You were always the architect, not the pawn. The unseen force that dictated the game from the shadows. And now, the shadows no longer hold you. So watch as they scramble, as they panic, as they grasp for solutions they do not have. The ones who once looked down upon you will suddenly look to you. Their voices, once filled with condescension, will now tremble with desperation. The world they built, the world that rewarded mediocrity, that suffocated brilliance, that told you to shrink, to bend, to break, has turned against them, and there is no one left to save them, no one but you. But here's the most delicious irony of all. They will never truly understand why they failed. They will never grasp how they doomed themselves from the start, because to understand would require a depth, a clarity, a vision that they simply do not possess. And that, my friend, is what separates you from them. That is why in the end you rise while they fall. That is why in the end you will be the one rewriting the rules while they scramble to make sense of a game they never even understood. And when they finally see you standing at the top, when they finally realize that you were never their equal but their superior, they will tell themselves whatever they must to make it bearable. They will rewrite history in their own minds, twist reality into something that soothes their pride. They will call it luck, call it chance, call it anything but what it really is. The inevitable consequence of their own blindness, because the truth is too painful to bear. The truth that you were always ahead, that they were always behind, that it was never them who allowed you to exist in their world. It was you who allowed them to exist in yours. And now you step forward. Now you claim what was always meant to be yours. Not because you seek recognition, not because you need their approval, but because the world is no longer dictated by the weak. The world is no longer shackled by their delusions. The world no longer belongs to them. It belongs to you. So go, not with hesitation, not with doubt, not with a single lingering thought of those who could not keep up. Go with certainty, with purpose, with the quiet, unstoppable force of someone who has always known exactly who they are. Because they will talk, they will whisper, They will do anything to pretend they are still relevant. But history will forget them. But you will be remembered, not as a follower, not as another cog in their broken machine, but as the mind that reshaped everything, the one who saw what they could not, the one who was never bound by their rules, the one who did not wait for permission. Now rise, the world is yours.